When people hear the word Crusades, they imagine faith. Crosses on shields, knights marching for God. Holy wars fought for salvation, honor, and belief. And belief mattered. But belief doesn't move armies across continents. Belief doesn't feed tens of thousands of people. Belief doesn't build ships, supply horses, or pay for steel. Mani dos. Aramen dos. Welcome to Financial Timeline, where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Europe in 1095. Rich in land, poor in cash in the year 1095. Europe wasn't wealthy. It was fragmented, violent, and economically inefficient. Power was decentralized. Kings ruled weakly. Nobles controlled land, not liquidity. There were no standing national armies, no centralized tax systems, no professional bureaucracies capable of financing long-distance war. Wealth existed mostly as land. You could command peasants, you could extract food, but you couldn't easily mobilize money. And yet, within a few years, tens of thousands of people would travel thousands of miles to fight in the Eastern Mediterranean. By any modern standard, this should have been impossible. The speech that changed the financial trajectory of Europe in November 1095, Pope Urban II addressed a crowd at the Council of Clermont. His message was spiritual. Reclaim Jerusalem, defend Christendom. Secure salvation. But beneath the theology was something far more powerful, a redirection of Europe's surplus violence outward, and unintentionally, the birth of a new financial system. Urban wasn't selling a war to kings. He was selling legitimacy to individuals. The crowd was filled with knights landholding warriors, whose identity revolved around violence, yet whose violence was increasingly condemned by the church. Second sons, vassals, household soldiers, men with swords but no inheritance. For them, the crusade wasn't just religious, it was social. To go was to prove honor, loyalty, and worth. To stay was to invite suspicion and stigma. Faith opened the door. Honor culture pushed them through it. A moving economy. Not just an army. Crusading forces weren't professional armies. They were moving societies. Knights brought servants, craftsmen, clergy, laborers, and thousands of non-combatants turned military expeditions into mass migrations. Europe didn't just export soldiers, it exported instability, surplus, and social pressure, pushing them toward a distant frontier where salvation was the promised return. The First Crusade mobilized up to 100,000 people, and every single one had to pay their own way. When war became a financial decision, there were no state stipends, no war bonds, no treasury checks. Crusaders financed themselves. They sold land at massive discounts, mortgaged estates to borrowed from moneylenders, pledged future harvests, promised political favors. Solvency didn't matter. Liquidity did. Salvation was time-sensitive. Debt could wait. This was the turning point. War stopped being something you merely fought. It became something you financed. And once war becomes financial, intermediaries appear. The merchants who understood the game, Italian merchant republics, Venice, Genoa, Pisa, saw the opportunity immediately. Crusaders didn't just need swords, they needed ships. Transport, credit, supplies, ports, warehouses, risk management. These cities weren't crusading out of faith. They were selling logistics. By the early 12th century, crusade routes became trade routes. Shipyards expanded. Ports grew wealthy. Contracts replaced vows. What began as religious mobilization evolved into a logistics industry. Belief as a revenue stream, the medieval church wasn't just spiritual. It was a transnational institution. It owned land, ran courts, educated elites, recorded births and deaths, but it didn't have a standing tax system. The Crusades changed that. Clergy were taxed. Laity were taxed. Payments could substitute for participation. Indulgences became financial instruments. Emergency fundraising hardened into recurring revenue. Belief became leverage. Guilt handled enforcement. The armored bankers' military orders, like the Knights Templar, emerged to protect pilgrims. Then they evolved. They accepted deposits, transferred funds across borders, issued early letters of credit. By the 12th century, the Templars operated one of Europe's most advanced financial networks, wearing armor, but thinking like bankers. When the Crusade followed the money in 1202, the Fourth Crusade revealed the truth. Crusaders hired Venice for transport and couldn't pay. Venice didn't cancel. It redirected, first to attack Zara, then, in 1204, to sack Constantinople, a Christian city. The crusade didn't fail. It followed the money. Venice gained wealth, territory, and trade privileges. Byzantium was crippled. Faith had become optional. Finance was not. Who really won the Crusades? As Crusades continued, the pattern locked in. Belief mobilized people. Finance determined outcomes. Merchants profited whether wars succeeded or failed. Nobles bore personal risk. Peasants paid higher taxes. Jewish communities were scapegoated as lenders. Land consolidated upward. Losses were individual. Profits were institutional. War became asymmetrical. Military orders functioned like medieval multinational corporations, tax-exempt, cross-border, and insulated from risk. The system outlived the war. By 1291. The Crusader states collapsed. Jerusalem was lost. Acre fell. Public enthusiasm faded, but the financial machinery remained. Taxation endured. War finance evolved. Merchant republics shifted from crusade to empire. Banking systems inherited the tools built for holy war. Europe didn't modernize by accident. It was forged under debt, pressure, and conflict. Why this still matters: modern wars use different language, but the structure is familiar. Moral certainty mobilizes support. Financial systems absorb risk upward. Costs flow downward. Contractors replace crusaders. Debt replaces vows. The machinery survives even when the mission fails. History doesn't repeat it. Trains. The Crusades taught Europe how to convert belief into money, and money into power. And once a system learns how to profit from conflict, peace becomes a threat. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe to Financial Timeline. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.